Sure. Pete, we just saw put out the post-game speech video, and you shouted, "We ain't dead yet" to the team. What has allowed that belief to been there? We've seen the guys buying in and believing this whole time, even with the losses piling up.
I would tell you that it's the leadership, John. It's the guys that keep the message strong, and we work real hard to stay connected. It's not like everybody's pointing the finger around here. That's not what's happening from me on down, so it's really important that we hang together, and so we've made it a big issue always. I mean, because you can get split up when you're doing good too, when people aren't getting enough praise or they want more, or that whatever, they get distracted by stuff. So this isn't any different. It's all trying to keep it together throughout whatever you're up against.
How fun was that scene in the locker room? I mean, obviously those guys have been waiting for a little bit for this.
Yeah, it was really good. It was really good. It's one of the the precious moments that you have as a team, and then we come back in the meetings on this day, and we watch the film and have fun checking it out, and then the offense defense split up and they get to watch their stuff that that's kind of pertains to their side of the ball, and those meetings are really a really special part of the whole process, and so that's why it's so important to win so you can have the good ones, because it's hard when you don't.
Jen?
Couple questions here. One, is there any update on Jamal Adams or anything new about his status?
I don't have anything updated yet. Sorry, I didn't get that.
Secondly, we don't talk about Michael Dixon enough, but the amount of times that he has pinned an opponent inside the 20, can you place a value on him and what he's done this year?
Yeah, well, it goes back to over the years here. When we've played our best defense, it was always about the field and being able to back people up and made those choices. And yesterday was one of the times you saw me make a choice to go for the field goal when we would normally put them, inside the 10-yard line, because our, John Ryan was great at it for years, and Mike is probably as good, and I think he's leading the league in kicks inside the 20. And it's a huge part of our scheme in our approach, and it fits the whole field. I mean, it's the offense, the defense. It applies to all aspects of our game, and the field is so important. So he's great at it.
Corbin?
Hey, Pete, Rashad's had such a tough go trying to stay healthy and get in a rhythm during the last couple of years. For him to go out and play the way he did yesterday, how does that impact what the offense can do? And what did you think of his blitz pickup that he had in the third quarter?
Yeah, that was a big play. The guys really recognized that when we watched the film today as a team. We showed that play. I think this was a good start for him. I think this is a start for him. I don't think he really has had a chance yet to start this season. And so this was the best opportunity that he's had, and I'm hoping that we can jump from here. He does look explosive. He does look like you can feel the big playability in him. And when he gets on the edge, like on the screen, I thought he was gone. And last week when he popped, I thought he was going to get out there and still make great plays on both of them. Like 20-yard plays on both of them. So he is important to us. We need him. And particularly without Chris's factor in here, they're totally different style runners, but yet they both factor into the to the explosiveness of our game. And so it's great to have him going, and I'm really hoping that he can have a good solid week and come back and build one on another and see if we can't get rolling here as we finish up this year.
Michael Sean?
Hey, Pete, Carlos last night had mentioned that his playing time dropping this season is something that you guys have communicated has worked for other players in the past, and something that's paid dividends as the season gets deeper. Who are some of those other players that's worked for, and why do that with Carlos?
It's just guys that are, guys that are at the other end of their career. You try to tailor plays for them, and I don't know anybody specifically, but there's all kinds of guys that we did that with, and usually with rushers, and more so than like DBs. They kind of play it out and they stay there forever. But the guys up front, you try to create situations where they can get bang for the buck, and they can really be really impacting when they get their chances. I mean, for the number of plays he had yesterday, to have the impact he had in the game was phenomenal. And this is he was challenged a little bit by it, and he jumped at it and did a great job, and they answered the call and came through and really helped us win the football game.
Thanks.
Masvita?
Hey, Pete. Looks like your three rookies, Eskridge, Kern, and Forsythe, all had significant impact in the game yesterday. I'm wondering, is this about that time you expect the rookies to kind of get it and begin to execute in games for you from a program perspective?
Yeah, really, I mean, when you get past the halfway point is when, I kind of think that the guys, if we've done right and we've prepared them well enough, that they should be able to help us, and that was a really good showing by those guys. Can you imagine Stone goes in there and there's Bosa on the other side first couple snaps? That's a real test, but they did do well, and I was really fired up that we got a different variety of balls, out towards Eskridge, so he could, make some different plays. He had to play on the sidelines. He had the one for the touchdown. He had the crossing route, which was great. He just needs to be out there. He's behind that halfway through the season deal because he's missed so much time, but certainly he's going to get more. So yeah, we do need those guys to show up and come through, and they did exactly what we needed them to do the other day and survived it, really. I think it's harder for Jake playing guard. He's a tackle, and he had to go over at left guard, and he made it through it. And I know that both those guys learned a lot up front.
Jackie?
Hey, Pete, this morning you had mentioned how you guys had more of an aggressive mindset going into the game. I think you said you were pushing the limits. What was it about this game?
I did.
Yeah, you.
I did, yeah.
What was it about this matchup or just this week in particular that you felt it was time to
I don't know. I was just looking for opportunities to to be clear about our intention and make sure that we weren't sitting back and kind of waiting for our chances at all. Sometimes you can play the game and hold on to the kind of the rhythm of it and wait it out. And I didn't want to wait it out in this game. I had a lot of respect for their team. Thought that they had a chance to be really explosive on both sides of the football, and we needed to really be going for it and then not waiting to see how the game turned out in this case. So they've just been playing so well, and so that probably was what upped me, a little bit in the things that we did. And I was jacked up about the game just like the players were, and so that's kind of what I was just playing it with them.
Bob Condotta, Seattle Times.
Yeah, Pete, how did you feel Adrian Peterson played yesterday? And then with Russell, you sort of talked about this being the best team then. Is this simply just kind of physically he's getting past everything that allowed him to play the way he did yesterday? Was there anything else that was kind of going on with him?
Well, first off, it was great to get Adrian in there, but the ball got knocked out of his hands right off the bat, which I was really disappointed for him. They got a great punch out, and that. That's unfortunate, but he bounced back and played really well after that in terms of hitting the line of scrimmage hard. I don't think he missed a read. He didn't get a lot of space running the football, but he did bounce when he had to and scored a touchdown. Had a good run for 6 or 7 yards one time in there just by driving and digging like he does. So I thought it was fine. I wish he had gotten more opportunities, but that worked out fine. And so I'm looking forward to how it goes this week. We'll see how the guys will compete during the week and see how it turns out. With Russ, yeah, I just watching it go, happen and watching kind of what he's had to focus to get ready to play each week. The time he's had to spend on his rehab and his work and all of that. I think he's over the top of that now. That's my opinion. You got to ask Russ, particularly, but he'll continue to work it because he's still got to, maintain where he is and try to continue to get better. But I think most of it's behind him now, and so I just think it just gets him more confident, more clear, more apt, more just more available to all of the faculties it takes to play the position, and I just think he's at his best. Plus, he sat out for a month, and that's. Just in itself, you're talking about a Maserati. It's finely tuned and ready to roll, and it's got to be, prepared and all that. And we couldn't do much with him, when he was on IR. So, and he's going to be better this week too. And I think he'll have the chance to continue to improve throughout the rest of this season, and he'll feel better about everything that we're asking him to do. And hopefully we'll make more plays.
Art.
Pete, you correctly forecasted last week that
wow.
Russell.
Why don't we just go to the next question and just leave it like that? I just correctly forecasted.
You correctly forecasted that Russell was going to have at week 8 from his injury was going to have a turning point in his recovery, and that clearly happened. Was that clairvoyance on your part, or
Claire?
Did you have information all along that week 8 was probably going to be the breakthrough?
No, I really think, Art, it's more about, it's just each week he's going to get better. It logically makes sense that, that he'll be if with no, barring setbacks, he would be the strongest and the most flexible and the most confident and it's not about confidence with Russ. Because he's already as confident as you can get. But I just think that his body would respond better as he gets more time, barring setbacks. And so I don't think that's really rocket science right there. But and you could feel him during the week too. He just looked the best, and he'd been the best, and he was really clear. I think the part I liked about Russ's preparation is he was really clear thinking going in, and he wasn't pressing to I've got to make a statement here or whatever. He was very, very calmed about the game and poised about it. Really, just throughout the whole game, he was just rock solid, and I really thought that was part of a really solid, consistent performance.
Brady.
Pete, let's put your clairvoyance to the test. What are the chances of Brandon Shell and Damian Lewis getting back this week?
You want to do one of these? You can do a laying of hands. Yeah, Karnak. You asked about Brandon and who else?
Damian Lewis.
Yeah. Well, first words are that Damian's got a chance to be practicing Wednesday. And I don't know that about Brandon. So I think D-Lou should be ahead a little bit. The 2 weeks he's had off will help that elbow and his shoulder. He should be pretty solid. We got to make it through the week. B-Shell, I can't say that. He's been playing up against it, and he really couldn't punch late in the game, and just like he was in 2 weeks ago. And so we got to take a really careful look at that and evaluate that during the week, see what happens. I don't know that yet, and we will not practice him Wednesday and Thursday. We're going to keep him out for sure, and we'll see how he bounces back.
And on the fake punt, you kind of talked about this on the radio, but did Travis Homer have the green light to basically do that wherever you guys were on the field?
Well, I don't want to give you all our secrets away, but he had a lot of control over the situation, and he handled it just perfectly.
Thanks.
Greg?
Pete, back to Jackie's question, how often have you done what you did yesterday and be more aggressive, the triple pass, the fake punt, the not kicking the field goal on the 5-yard line?
A lot of times. And sometimes it goes with the game too. There's a basic approach that we're trying to play really good football and trust that we're okay. And so that means you don't have to push the limits to try to get everything done right off the bat. That's basically how we go about stuff, and kick the ball deep and back them up and make them go 90 yards to score and let our defense do their thing. Our defense is playing well enough that we can play that way. So I was kind of disappointed. I was disappointed that we got knocked back there because I was counting on, have a chance to score, and then we got knocked back, and then we got in it, and we've, every week, J. Mike kicks field goals from that far out. We're always testing him, so there's no question that he can kick the ball like that far. He just didn't go on this day, and it's a little harder outdoors and a little bit of cool, and so we challenged him a little bit, but really it depends, Greg, on it's not always as clear as it was this week, Niners, all that, they've been playing so good. It had something to do with it. We thought we needed to match them up.
So my question is, why not just play that way in Houston and LA and the rest of the season?
Well, you'll have to just wait and see how we decide. We may not.
And back to
I would say this. It is definitely always in me. I'm fighting the urge always.
And with Wilson, was that just part of, you got a superstar quarterback who wants to come back in half the time his doctor told him, so you're going to have to live with whatever the weeks 1 through 4 is of this comeback, and now he's back to where it should be?
Russ looked good in practice. He was able to show it, and so I'm talking a few weeks back. Had he not, then it would have been different. But he was able to do all the stuff in practice. The fact that we kept him out of taking snaps, and that was just really, that was. He agreed with it, but I was really strongly in favor of that too, just to get rid of those impacts, So that was a little. He's fine about that now. I go back to when we had Drew Bledsoe at New England, and he had a similar break on his index finger, and he had a pin in there, and he came back the first week and was playing with the pin in his finger, and every time he took a snap, the pin came out a little bit, and he had to push it back in, you know. Well, I mean, I had that kind of thought in my mind. I didn't want to put Russ through that, even though that he would have and could have, and so we're beyond all that, you know. We're beyond all of it now, and now he just needs to do his consistent, you know, rehab and the things that he's doing, but he's more freed up to go now than ever, and so.
Sorry, I'm hogging it. One more. How much of the playbook did Adrian Peterson have, and how much could he have now more this week?
Oh, he had a lot.
Did he?
Oh yeah, he had a lot. He picked up a ton of stuff, and Russ would go like this. You go there. If he didn't know, you know, he just had a chance to turn around and talk to him whenever he needed to. And we have a lot of stuff, you know, and so there are audibles and checks and all of that. You saw, I'll give you this one. We did not burden him with the third down stuff. You know, it was first and second down stuff.
Anything else, Greg?
No, that's my filibuster. Thank you for that.
Appreciate it.
Curtis?
Yeah, Pete, there was a couple instances yesterday where you had delay games on the offense and then were headed that way. It took a couple timeouts and then still had the one. How rough was that for you guys working through that and looking back on those couple moments, and how did it get to that?
Yeah, that shouldn't happen to us. We did get, on the first time we used the timeout, we were a little bit late with the call because we were deciding to get the right one, and we were just a little bit late and we couldn't get it done. And it was a crucial situation, and I didn't want to waste, you know, the rushing for the clock that we could have probably got the ball snapped, but we thought, let's take our time. So then we because it was that important, and then we did take our time and we made our call, and we just were too deliberate, you know. And Russ made a change that you could see at the end of the play. An adjustment in protection, and it just ran the clock down on us, and that shouldn't have happened. We were in the huddle calling the play at 25 and all that, and we just let some seconds slip away, and, you know, Russ needed the help, and Shane and I both needed help just keep moving, and we just made a mistake, and so we had to eat it there.
And looking back on yesterday,
I think we got really fired up and threw a long ball to DK right after that, did we not? Yeah.
That came right after that sequence. Yes, it did.
Yeah.
What did you see change defensively looking back on it yesterday for you guys to really kind of clamp down there in the second half?
Well, we played the run really well throughout the game, and we were in control of that, and we were really pleased about that, and felt like that was the key to the game. We had a couple plays. There was two plays that never should have got out. The touchdown pass, both the touchdown passes to Kittle were errors that we should have been able to stop those, and that was it. You know, we felt like we had played well other than that, and so we just needed to clean up a couple of the errors that we made, and our guys did a great job at halftime and came out in the second half and just put it together and shut it down, and that was fantastic. And the run, I think they ran the ball for 20 yards or something, or 30 yards in the second half, and we were able to control the line of scrimmage well. I think I did tell you guys about. I thought that Al Woods did a really nice job in his role in this game. Did I tell him that in the morning? I thought I did. That his factor was important in this game, and he was right where the action was, and for the most part, and I think affected it in a real positive way for us.
Tim?
Pete, you mentioned this morning on the radio about the team getting booster shots today. What was sort of the thinking about trying to get that done now, and did everyone participate, and had any guys already gotten those before today?
It was really for the whole building, you know, and everybody was involved, and they had an opportunity, and, you know, they had slots if they wanted it. I don't know what the count was on that. Not everybody took advantage of it today. But a lot of people did, you know, I know from the building in particular. You know, there's a little bit of concern that you can have a little lag, you know, in how you feel right after you take your booster. Some people do, some people don't. And I think that's enough to keep some people to make the decision to, you know, not do it in the week of the season. So we'll see how that goes. But it was available for everybody, and that's a good thing. And hopefully we took care of a lot of issues. I heard, I don't know if this is accurate or not, I heard there's 10 or 11 guys around the league that came up sick today. And so we're fortunate that we're in good shape there. But it just shows you that it's a little more apt to be happening now with what's going on.
John?
Pete, we saw Sidney Jones involved a couple plays down there at the end. He was on a run stop and then the third down pass. Just to be able to plug him in after you lose Trey, just the depth you've kind of developed there when it was maybe a little shakier in the year. Just how do you feel about that group right now?
Yeah, well, we're doing better. That was a nice game for Sidney. Did a nice job. Bless Austin played on his side as well and had a real nice hit and a couple plays in there too. DJ played real active. The guys did a nice job, and we need those guys to continue to just be part of it, and make their plays. And all of the guys that are playing right now are all really active players. They're going for it, and they've got a real kind of playmaking mindset about them, and like I've kind of been saying about DJ always. And so Sidney came through in a big way. The tackle he made might have been one of the most important plays of the finishing aspect of that game, because it stopped him cold and put him in a passing situation. He comes right back and is involved with the breakup, which was awesome, and so it's great to see him come through.
Sorry, one more. With Quandre Diggs, obviously the interceptions jump out, but you've mentioned a couple times him, when he runs the alley and hits guys in run defenses. What does that do for a defense, that kind of play in particular? When he just
it is a really good part of our scheme, because you anticipate it happening, so when the situation arises, you're looking, where is he going to come from, and I hope our opponents are doing the same thing, because he is a very instinctive and aggressive player from back there, and we've had real good play at the safety spot over the long haul, and he's doing it as well as we've seen, and the picks are coming, the hits keep happening, and pretty exciting to see him playing like that.
Thanks, everyone. Can't wait to see you on Wednesday in person.
Anybody want to say likewise? I'm sure to Dave, but no, you don't want to.
See you guys.